Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
So my name is Victor Ndukwe, and you are all welcome to our webinar discussion for today. It's titled The Future of Work, Remote Work in the New Era. I'm joined today by some seasoned professionals. We've got Mrs. Nireti Adebayo on her way. We've got Mrs. Taiwo Dayo-Abatan. We've got Mrs. Adanma Onuegbu, great panelists on this discussion. Mrs. Nireti is going to be joining us in a couple of minutes, and we are going to get her on board. So before we do that, let me just take a brief introductions from the panelists themselves. Let's start from Mrs. Taiwo Dayo-Abatan.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Taiwo Dayo-Abatan, a human resource professional. I currently work for Mutual Benefits Assurance PLC as group head HR, and I manage all the activities on the HR value chain. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Abatan. To move to the next speaker, Mrs. Adanma Onuegbu. She's a seasoned professional who runs Signal Alliance, and yeah, I would just like her to make a brief introduction of herself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mrs. Adanma Onuegbu. I was the former CEO of Signal Alliance. I'm the executive consultant for the group. Today to just discuss how we can move forward with remote work.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Abatan. Mrs. Nireti Adebayo is on her way. She will be joining us in a bit. So thank you all for coming. Without further much ado, I'll just talk a bit about myself. I am Victor Ndukwe, and I'm the managing partner for MyKhaban. MyKhaban is a real estate and technology company. As a real estate company, we try to make great environments for our people, environments for work, for play, and for recreation. We just thought it's going to be best to understand what the customer needs in terms of the office space. What spaces are good for work? What environments do we need to create for work? And how do we optimize spaces for work? Work has moved from the traditional mode of work to what it is now in terms of remote work and all that. So how do we, as real estate people, create the right kind of environment for work? And that is why we have this discussion now. I will go back to Mrs. Taiwo. Could you please give us some of your ideas on what you think has changed from the traditional work experience to what you have now?
Okay, thank you, Victor. So what I see that has changed in the last few months, based on the impact of COVID-19, is that work life is basically moving from the brick and mortar office space to remote work. Yeah. What I've also observed also is that there's a high leverage on technology. So you see companies having to invest a lot on technology. So meetings are happening via different applications, Microsoft Teams, Zoom. So companies have had to make a lot of investments around technology. I've also found out that what has changed is also customer interaction has changed. So you rarely see customers walking into your organization now. So companies have to develop other methods of interacting with customers. More importantly, from my space as a human resource professional, one other thing that has changed is the kind of employees we have in the organization now. So it was clear that the kinds of employees that we had pre-COVID were not physically by name and everything. They're the same people that resumed, but emotionally and psychologically, they're not the same employees that resumed. Based also on the impact of COVID-19. I think for a lot of employees, the coming to work 8 to 5 was a cover-up for so many other underlying issues that they now had to contend with, having to be at home. So that is sort of the 4 areas: customer interaction, leveraging on technology, office work now moving remotely, and the kind of employees that we have. Those are the 4 main differences that I've seen in the workspace.
All right, 4 main differences. We'll move to Mrs. Adanma. What do you think has changed in terms of the way your employees work? What has basically changed from the traditional mode to where we are now?
I believe Ms. Taiwo has also said a lot of the things have changed. What I will add here is the way the employers interact with the employees has changed.
Yeah.
Secondly, will be that the kind of people that you need in the workforce has also changed. For instance, if you used to have a driver, a driver takes you to work, and suddenly you find out that the driver is redundant. Means that you don't need a driver again.
Correct.
So a lot of people, the kind of work you're doing now will definitely change the way you see things happening. So the kind of people you will need in this post-COVID era somehow is going to realign, or you realign the existing people that you have to adapt to that change, if they can. But if they can't, it then means that you have to make a completely change in the kind of structure that you have in the organization. So it's rapidly changing the mindset of how people interact within themselves and what is expected out there to deliver to the business. So if you look at it today, for me, I would see that the kind of things I've seen now is that there are a lot of people that have seen that their work don't exist any longer. So either you change the kind of work they're doing to suit what is happening, or you let them go and get the right people to have the right jobs. So things are really rapidly changing. So it's the mindset of the employer to now begin to think differently on how to make this work in the workplace.
Correct. Thank you very much, Mark. Yes, I'd like to welcome our third panelist for today.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know, internet, I don't know, it has a way of disappointing one. I've been sitting here all day waiting for the meeting, and then I got in and it was difficult to go in. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay.
So hello everyone. Adanma, Taiwo, it's Taiwo.
Nice to meet you.
Nireti, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yes, well, I don't know if I have if I can really make an introduction to Mrs. Nireti, but she's been a very, very good friend of mine. She's a wonderful person. Let me just read a few things about her. She's result-oriented, passionate HR, professional with over 22 years cognate experience spanning several corporate organizations in different capacities. At the founding CEO of Whytecleon Limited, she has been able to impart exceptional problem-solving, motivational, human developmental, leadership, and management skills to our clients, and assisted them over the years to formulate, develop, and effectively implement their HR strategies. Her leadership has propelled the company into becoming a leading HR organization of highly engaged employees, with the resolve to always deliver quality service and exceed client expectations. She is also a facilitator at the Enterprise Development Center of the Lagos Business School. Expert in Residence Program. Nireti has an MSc degree in administration, majoring in strategic HR from the Lincoln University, Pennsylvania, USA, and a higher diploma in accountancy. She is a 2-time alumnus of the Lagos Business School, AMP19, and the CEP Stream 22 Chief Executive Program of 2013. Also an alumnus of the Stanford SEED, that is the Stanford Institute for Innovation in Developing Economies of the Stanford University, USA, and IESE Business School, Barcelona, where she earned a diploma in management. She is a fellow of the Association of Outsourcing Professionals of Nigeria, member, Institute of Directors, member, State Institute of Personnel Management, member, Society for Human Resource Management, USA, and a member of several Nigerian and international professional bodies. She was recently appointed to the board of AIFA Reading Society and the board of trustees of the Stanford SEED Network in Nigeria. I'd like to add that she is happily married with kids. Thank you, Ms. Nireti, for coming on board.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before you came in, we were just having a discussion of a few things that has changed from traditional workspace to where we are now. We said on this program, the essence of this webinar is basically to align employees, employers, and stakeholders to the new reality. And from your experience, your wide experience in HR, right? What would you say was the situation? What would you say is the situation now, and where are we really headed in our work life?
I believe it's a new normal, and it's something that everyone has been expecting for a very long time. Because remote work did not just start now. It
Yes.
started decades ago. It started decades ago. And what we are seeing now, it's a result of the incremental awareness of human beings as to what their needs are, as to what they perceive to how they can work better in different environments. I believe that right now it's different from what we experienced in the last 10 years, the last 8 years, the last 15 years, and even the last 3 years. Things are beginning to change, and things will continue to evolve over time. I believe that remote working has evolved, from decades ago to where we are now. And from some of the readings that I've made, it's effectively been in the making since the 80s, since the 1980s, till after the Industrial Revolution, where home-based work continued to thrive, especially in the European and the North American countries. Because I also read that in the early 80s, that thousands, about 386,000 of IBM workers were actually working from home. And as at that time, IBM was able to, to save about $100 million. And this is as at 1980. And I remember vividly in 2001, I actually have a Japanese friend who was at that time already had a PhD and lived in the US and was working in Japan. And this was in 2001. And so you wonder what is happening. So it's been long coming. We just did not, log in as quickly as we should have, really. And it's going to get more interesting from what I see. It's going to get more interesting because a lot of things are changing. Employees are beginning to be aware of their needs. Employers are beginning to see what their value propositions should be for employees. And even employees up until now are beginning to see what their EVP should be. What is their value proposition? And so everybody is aware of their environment, they're aware of their bodies, they're aware of their competencies, they're aware of their needs, in the society. So it's going to get more interesting as we move on, because remote work is evolving on a daily basis. And that's what we'll be seeing henceforth. So it's a new normal, and we all have to embrace it. We all have to embrace it.
Yeah, great. So we are actually taking a poll now on what's the greatest challenges to remote worker in Nigeria. And at the end of the day, we will give some insights to that. Very interesting insights. Not really what I thought it was going to be, but yeah, that's why we have this kind of webinars. So I want to move straight to some kind of interesting discussions. We want to talk about from the employer's view, right? We want to talk about a couple of things that affect the employers, or that we know is going to affect the employers. So we want to talk about talent retention. We want to talk about operation costs and employee costs. We want to talk about culture. Ms. Nireti, you might want to handle some of those things. How do you think these things are going to play out in the new normal? Talent retention, culture, and operation costs.
Okay, thank you. I've attended several webinars, and I'm sure we all have. And then we need to think, all these webinars, what is happening? We attend webinars every day. But the truth of the matter is there's always something to get out of learning. There's always something. The reality of the workplace, it's it's a direct response to the rapid changing workforce and the environment. And this is actually very important to future performance and competitiveness in our different organizations and in the workplace. The new workplace, as we see it, is technologically inclined, as we know. It's evolving constantly and it's meeting business challenges. It's becoming more and more flexible, as we can see. We wake up anytime we feel like now. It's not like we have to be at work at 7 a.m. or 7:30 as it were before. And employees are determined, even right now, to determine who they work for, how they work, and the hours of work as well. So it's changing. It's helping our brand projections to even be more open, to others to read. So it's projecting more of our brand projection. Increasingly, the regulatory environment is now becoming more evolving in the affairs of organizations, as it were. So we're beginning to see a lot of these realities in the workplace right now. But the truth of the matter is that organizations are beginning to witness very positive disruptive challenges now, very positive disruptive changes across every sector, manufacturing, finance, logistics, whichever sector. We're beginning to see a lot of positive disruptive changes. And of course, new tools are deployed on a daily basis. And we also know that there is a lot of gender-related issues that are also coming up. All these are also evolving as we are moving on a daily basis. But you will be amazed that, except right now in Nigeria, that we are all embracing it because of the pandemic. But in the US and in Europe, millions have been working from home for a very, very, very long time. And I know it, as things are evolving now, our children that are in primary school right now or in high school right now may never understand the job we've been doing in 2020. Because by 2025, 2030, a lot of these jobs are going to change. And so they may never even know what it is. So the environment is changing on a daily basis. And the beauty of it is that it gives it segments the demographic system that we have now. And we can see a huge rise in middle class, emerging markets. The younger ones, the millennials, are taking over. So we can see a huge, number in that. So how does working from home, how does it affect us? It enables us to be flexible. And I'm sure we all know that. Flexibility of work it's there. And of course, it enables, workers as well to have a different perspective of who they are as individuals or what they should be ready for at work, And then working from home, as I would say, is, for me, I think is great. I think the experience has been good, But I ask myself, if I work from home, what sort of resources should be available to me? What sort of resources should be available to the organization? What sort of communication should the organization send to the staff? Because as beauty as working at home may be, it's disruptive, both on the negative and positive sides. But the truth of the matter is that the positivities that we have experienced from working from home is huge. It's huge, and it's going to continue to evolve. And so if we're beginning to work from home, what sort of communication should for the employees? And what sort of communication should the employees receive on their own? What kind of broadband connectivity do we have? What sort of backup internet do we have? How safe are the resources that we work with? And this is where cybersecurity comes in. And as we are all aware, we can see the emergence of a lot of internet scammers these days. About 2 weeks ago, a few of them were apprehended in Dubai. This is just the beginning. So it's going to continue and evolve over time. Crime is going to evolve, internet crime is going to evolve over time. Now, as organizations and as individuals, how safe are our resources? And I believe that Adanma is here. She's a guru in IT. I'm sure she's going to take us through all of that in no time. So our resources, how safe are they working from home? Working from home is beautiful, but the truth of the matter is we're going to deal with individual files. We're going to deal with people's confidential files in all strata of different sectors that we belong to. So how safe are these documents? And I'm trying to also emphasize that as well. How professionally composed are we as individuals, okay? And even as organizations, how composed are we? How ready are we? The contingency plan that we have. What sort of tools do we have, for even our employees? Because I remember at the time the COVID was, was starting in March, I remember that a few of my colleagues actually gave stipends to their employees, and we did the same thing at Whytecleon because they had to get ready for staying at home. So what sort of tools do we have? Do you have laptops for your employees? Do you have allowances either for their internet connectivity? How are you supporting them financially? How are you ensuring that they're not wearing the wrong outfit for meet? Because we still have to meet. As we are meeting now, what sort of dress sense is required for us to be able to work, to work from home? These are all unanswered questions that organizations will have to deal with. As simple as they may seem, they are very pertinent to our businesses, because the truth of the matter is business continues as usual. But what it has done for us is for us to be able to look for ways that we can, seal up all these disruptive changes that we have in our different sectors, in our different organizations. So working from home is as important as that. What are the challenges that we have? What about motivation? How do we motivate ourselves, and how do we motivate our employees in different organizations? How do we manage disruptions? Sometimes you're in a meeting and then there's this huge internet disruption. Just like I'd been sitting here for almost 35, 40 minutes. And just for me to log on, it became an issue. And so how do we manage all these disruptions? And staying at home sometimes can really be lonely. So how do we manage the loneliness? What do we do with our spare time? How are we managing that? How are we ensuring that we are multitasking and are able to take care of some of these issues that we have? Okay, are we overworking, or are we not even working at all? Because I know that as of 3 years ago or 2 years ago, my organization was ready to work from home. But the only reason we prolonged that was because we needed everybody to get into the mood of knowing that when they are home, they can actually work and not just sleep or do whatever they need to do, in the time, during office hours. And so that was why we never really started. But we were ready. It was as if COVID was waiting for us to start that. But now it's forcing the hands of every organization to see what they need to do. Working about time management, setting the right expectation for people at home. What sort of performance measurements do we have? How are we developing our routine for working from home? And so all these things are changing. And, as they are changing, we also have to continue to change with them. And so how are things change, and how will they change? The corporate flexibility, for example, you either innovate or you die. And we have to leverage hugely on technology. We are doing a lot of e-learning right now as a result of FH, working from home or remote work. We're doing a lot of video conferencing, and this is going to evolve over time. It's going to continue over time. And also, we are also seeing that the cost of overseas training has gone down. And so those costs can be used to safeguard working from home here. That way, we can use it to buy enough tools, enough equipment for everyone to work with. And of course, we're going paperless as well. Those are the effects of, some of the issues we're having now, having to work remotely. And so what is a new worker doing about working from home? What should the new worker do? How would they imbibe? How are we going to imbibe working from home? And I believe Ada will talk a bit about that as well. Yeah. And I know that, of course, Taiwo is going to talk a lot about the emotions and how it affects every individual. But the truth of the matter is that the new worker has to be technologically savvy. It has to be able to understand and take charge of the new world, because that is what is happening now. You have to be flexible. We must have control of our time. We must acquire new ways of communicating and collaborating. This is really important. So who are you collaborating with, either at the business space or at different levels, you know, of the organization, or even outside the workspace? So how are we communicating our ideas? Is there a lot of ideation going on? You know, how are we doing our meetings? How are we strategizing on how to move forward? Okay, so we must have the ability to change and to adapt to these new changes really, really, really quick. And more so now that the millennials are going to form about 75% of our workforce. How are we going to deal with them? What sort of strategy do we have to retain these lovely millennials? Because they are different sets and they are not easy to deal with, but they are also very beautiful to work with because they are really smart and they are intelligent. How do we maximize that? And how do we bring out the best in them? Customization is going to be the order of the day. Customization, right thinking, you know, information sharing is really important. Okay, what sort of level of discipline do we have? Because we still have people whose phones will be ringing endlessly and they never really pick it up. And this is actually during official hours. And that was why I was asking, what sort of communication are we giving? What sort of strategy have we had on communicating the right ideals, you know, to employees? And I'm also talking about startups as well. I'm also talking about startups. And startups in a way are employees in their own organization. So if we have startups in our midst, this is actually the right time to actually take note and take in part of what we are sharing together today. Okay, because the new worker is not interested in hierarchy, but they are interested in transparency. And the new worker does not respect you based on your age. The new worker respects you based on your experience and the value you are able to give in business. So that is the difference between the new worker and the old worker. And the new worker now becomes a leader automatically. And that is why we have a lot of portfolio coaches and portfolio teachers on the internet. Everybody is their own CEO, whether they read from the books or whether they have, you know, a small practice or a small startup. So everyone is a leader at the end of the day. And so it teaches a lot on leadership, you know. So those are areas that we have to look forward to. And it's leaning towards a new model of conciliation that allows for better balance as well between professional, your being professional, and also our personal lives, okay? And so now we might have fewer working hours, but more productive hours, which is the recipe for great performance.
Yeah.
It is. We have to devise ways to manage that and ways to be able to appraise those hours that we're using to work. Now, decentralizing our work schedule is very common right now. And of course, the labor market is very, very flexible right now. People are changing jobs. They're seeking new opportunities in all the different sectors of the economy. So how are we retaining our talents? And to that, how are we retaining the talents? Because right now, people are changing jobs. There's flexibility from moving from one organization to the other. There's flexibility on doing projects, you know, based work. There's flexibility on you not wanting to work 24 hours in an organization. You can actually work on a project by project basis. And at all levels, not only at junior levels, at all levels, you can decide when and how you want to work. You can decide the space of work. You can decide who you want to work with. You can decide how you want to work. And so there is so much flexibility. However, as an owner, as an employer, as a startup, how do you retain the right talents in your organization? You have to recognize, we have to recognize. It starts with our recruitment. So we have to recognize and know the right candidates for our recruitment. We have to offer competitive salaries and benefits. This is important. We have to provide very clear communication, like I said. The communication must be clear about their career path. It must be clear about their working in the organization. The processes must be clear and must be concise. And we must leverage a lot on technology. We must leverage hugely on technology to increase our efficiency, to increase our time management. And we have to be open and very transparent, like I said before. Everyone must learn to use data for business analysis. We have this huge data. I was in a seminar a few years ago in the US, and I was amazed that they were still complaining that even the big data, the use of big data is such a challenge for most organizations because they are unable to analyze the data that they have. And I imagine if they're having such issues in the first world, then we may have worse issues here in Nigeria. So how are we using our data? Because data analytics is important. And I'm happy that my darling sisters are here today. So I'm sure we're all confronting the same thing. So the use of data is important, okay? And how do we identify those candidates that we perceive are very teachable in the organization? Okay, so right now we have all become leaders and we cannot have bosses anymore. Because when you become a boss, then you're asking people the way out. We must have proper job design. Our job design must be concise. It must have a proper workflow that will enable either multiplicity of a capacity or one that shows, direct process workflow. This is important. How can we, as employees or startups, stay relevant to our clients? How can we stay relevant in our different organizations? Okay, so what do we need to do? All these things we have to put into context. We have to learn how to use our tools in our different businesses, in our job design, whether as a startup, whether as an employee, whether as an employer. We have to be focused. We have to be diligent at all times. This is where integrity comes in. And this is really, really important because we need integrity to be able to work with our clients. We must engender that trust. We must engender integrity. We have to understand the need of our clients more than ever. Because what COVID has done for us is for us to be able to look holistically at our customers and know what their needs are. Look holistically at our colleagues, at our employees in the organization, and know what their propositions are. This is not the time to be an island. And so these are things that we have to continually discuss and, of course, understand. And then we must know why our competitors are successful. There has to be something that they are doing right. And so this is where, our SWOT analysis will come in. We must recognize what our strengths are. We must recognize what our weaknesses are. We must recognize where the opportunities are and what are the threats to the business. So more than ever, this is where we need to be the underdogs and we need to begin to study our competition and know what exactly they are doing and what we can do better, either as startup, either as employees in a healthy environment that can compete favorably with each other. Because with this work from home now, it's going to show the boys from the men and it's going to show the girls from the ladies. It's going to show the lazy ones from the motivated ones. So this is really, really crunch time. I call it crunch time. It's for everybody to bring out the juices, that they have. And now we have to begin to create capacity. We cannot take our eyes off our goals. We cannot do that. Now, how has all of this affected our operating costs? And how can we ensure that we manage our operating costs? Because we all have it. Whether as individuals, we have the cost of managing ourselves. How do we manage that? As employers in the organization, how do we manage our administrative and operating costs? Because I know that a lot of organizations are actually affected by this COVID in some way or the other. The disparity may differ from an organization to the other, So what do we need to do to ensure that our costs, do not become an issue for us? And one of the things that I will say here is automate your process. We have to automate our process. I'm not going to talk so much on IT because we have an IT experts here. I know both Taiwo and Adanma are going to break us down when it comes to that. But it's important that we automate our processes. Everything has to be automated. At a level of efficiency. We have to optimize our scheduling. We must learn to multitask. We must increase the capacity, of all in our organization. We have to study the communication between departments so that there is a lot of cohesion and there is no overlap. This is really, really important. We have to be sure that roles are not overlapping in the society. And this is the time to outsource. And I'm not trying to advertise my business, but this is the time to outsource. And we have seen big organizations, the likes of UPS, the likes of Google, and a lot of them actually outsource a major chunk of their businesses. For instance, a payroll, you have to outsource your payroll. You can outsource your payroll. You can outsource your HR department. Those are things that should not even be your headache at all. So this is the time to hire a contractor on temporary basis. Outsource on temporary basis so that they can take care of all your needs and then you can concentrate on the core work. This is the time to do that. We must focus right now on retention because the cost of getting new hires, the cost of getting new candidates into your organization is actually very, very high. It can take as much as 60% of the gross salary of whoever is living in your organization. And it can take so much as over 200% as well, if we're not careful. So what we need to do, if we're going to have overtime, people working from home but can work overtime, we can increase their productivity costs just by a little. It's quite cheaper from getting somebody who is new, who will take enough time to incubate into and integrate into the organization. So this is the right time to actually ensure that we retain the right talents in the organization and of course boost productivity through that. And then of course the cost of training, our staff or training ourselves. We must learn new skills to keep our job really interesting, okay? And of course, it's important as employees or as employers that we must also have non-monetary rewards. A simple thing as thank you, a simple thing as I appreciate you, a simple recognition, a simple reward. It can be non-monetary. This is actually the time to bring out the humanity that we have. How do we mitigate the loss of cash flows? How do we mitigate the impact on our cash flows? Because this is important. I'm sure we have business people here, we have employees here, we also have employers here of diverse backgrounds. We have to renegotiate our loans if we have loans. This is the time to negotiate. I was listening to a webinar where one of my colleagues said he actually went to the landlord, where they had their corporate office, and he had to renegotiate the rent. And I learned a thing or two from that. So this is actually the time to renegotiate corporate loans. We have to do that. This is the time to reduce our spending. It's really, really important. We have to review our budget because the budget we had in December, whichever time it's our financial year end. I mean, things are different now. There are lesser opportunities, there are lesser work, new opportunities are being created on a daily basis. So we have to see what our budget is, is saying to us. So we have to review our budget and we have to reduce a lot of wastages in the, in the organization or even at home. Even at home, there's a lot of wastages at home. And as individuals, we have to begin to clip those wastages in the board because it's not the time to really waste money. And this is the time not to take loans. We cannot take loans at this time. I would never take any loan at this time. It's the wrong time to do so because we cannot predict what will happen in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year. You can tell, oh, they will give moratorium, which is true. Moratorium run really, really fast. And by the time moratorium starts, it's possible that the business is yet to take off. However, if we must take loans, we must ensure that we do our diligence really, really, really well and appropriately as well to show that there cannot be any leak and one has the capacity to repay these loans. Multitasking is really important. I've said that a couple of times. And then we must have, if your employees are not going on leave, this is the time for them to go on leave. They can go on a long leave if they have to. They can go on a long leave if they have to. So you're saving a lot of money on that. That is the truth. Okay, so they can go on leave. For some organizations, they can review their compensation structure. I have seen a few who have reduced salaries. We haven't reduced salaries, and we don't intend to reduce salaries. But this is actually the time to pay more, so you can retain the best hands, you know, in the organization. So we need to work on retaining our staff. What are the critical factors to remote work? What are the critical factors, critical success factors for remote work? We have to increase our market share through our current customers, because one of the things we decided to do at Whytecleon was to put all our customers in a bowl, and then we began to take them out one by one. What are their needs? What do we need to do? And there were things we were not doing before that we had to start to do now, because the needs are more. The clients are looking for ways to reduce their cost as well. So how are we going to ensure that we increase the number of businesses that they give us, because they are low-hanging fruits? That is it. We cannot allow any of our customers to leave us. So this is the time to begin to investigate, to know the needs and how we can add value to our customers. This is crunch time, people. This is crunch time, and we have to do what we have to do to retain our low-hanging fruits, to retain our current customers and increase our market share with them. We have to be service-driven, and quality must be our watchword as at now. If we're doing haphazard work before now, this is the time to raise the bar. This is the time to raise the bar to our customers. This is really, really, really important. We have to leverage on technology and efficiency, as I said earlier. This is important. We cannot overemphasize this. We cannot. Because technology to us, and to me as a person, it's not just about having something big in my organization that spells like an IBM, but it's something that should be able to work to ensure that there is efficiency in my business, to ensure, you know, great time management, to ensure a sort of communication and connectivity to my clients. So this is the time to leverage on technology to bring us that level of comfort that we need to increase, you know, our work in the environment. And it is business as usual, because we cannot, so because we are working from flexible, and so because of that, we cannot meet our targets. No, this is crunch time. This is the time to do more business. And so yes, it is business, and we have to continue to do meaningful work like we are being supervised. It's important. We must align our incentives with our rewards, with job roles now. So meaning that if you're a startup and you have not people that are working with you, you should try and align their job roles to maybe just a little recognition, a little reward, you know, so that they know, or we know that when we attain a particular target, this is what we expect. So we have to align our incentives and our rewards with our job roles. So this will breed higher productivity and job satisfaction as well. And then we must provide tools for working from home. And then we must create performance metrics. There has to be performance metrics that will enable us to measure the performance of everyone working from home. And I believe that we'll talk more about this between Taiwo and Adanma. We'll expatiate on that. And so we have to over-communicate. It's really important. And then if we're going to begin to talk about all these things, what sort of culture drives that? What sort of culture do we have? What sort of corporate culture do we have? Do we have a client culture that actually is collaborative, where we can share ideas, where we can ideate, where we see ourselves as one big happy family? Are we going to continue to have a strict hierarchical culture? What sort of culture are we going to have? Because right now, flexibility is the name of the game. So meaning that if we are too hierarchical in our organizations, we have to try and reduce that and begin to have a fusion of a bit of this clan culture that breeds productivity, that breeds collaboration, that breeds ideation, that breeds customization, that will differentiate you from your competitor. And what sort of, energy are we bringing in? So those are all the things that we have to consider in our workplace culture and in our corporate culture. What are the shared values? What's our belief system? What's our attitude? What are the set of assumptions? Because we see that a lot of organizations right now actually give additional payroll, actually give additional bonuses, okay, to their staff at this time. And meanwhile, you will have other organizations who use the pandemic as an excuse to reduce salaries. So things that we have to talk about, those are discussions that we must make. So which of them works better for us? But I will pick the one whose salaries are either more and not cut at all, because I believe that in retaining the right talent in the organization, we have to ensure we do all we can to retain them in our organization. And so we must constantly look at our positive work culture, one that improves work ethic, that improves teamwork, that raises the morale of our employees in the organization, one that increases cohesion, alignment, productivity, great ideation from staff, one that improves efficiency, and one that improves retention in the organization. All these are really, really, really important. And so we have to build that culture that is very meaningful, that creates meaningful goals. A culture that grows out of the current culture, but is enhanced and it evolves. We have to provide meaning for people in our organization. And their goals must be very clear. The career path must be very clear. And of course, as leaders, we have to listen. I'm very impatient, but I'm learning to listen, because that is the only way to go right now. And there has to be more emphasis on welfare, on wellness, on the psychological balance, the right balancing of all our workers and our clients. So this is really, really important. I think I need to stop here right now. So
it's a lecture. It's something that has come just right in time, so apt for this moment. I mean, I can't thank you enough for sharing these insights. Thank you, Mrs. Nireti Adebayo. I want to move to Mrs. Adanma Onuegbu now. Mrs. Nireti has actually put some things on your plate now. Talking about IP, talking about remuneration. I mean, she's mentioned all that. But from your own perspective as the NDC of Signal Alliance, I know Signal Alliance is one of the top IT firms in the country. I mean, recently you partnered with Microsoft Cloud to provide cloud computing solutions to customers. How do you make sure that our data is protected? How do you make sure that we have everything together? How do you make sure that our IP is not stolen? Somebody lives in the same house with another person. They both work for competition companies. How does IP, become protected in that scenario?
Okay, thank you very much, Victor. Let me take first of all from the data protection one. Now, how do we prevent data theft? It is normal. The first thing that we have to do as people is just to be nice to your employees. We are aware that a disgruntled employee can be the most dangerous vulnerability in your company's data protection program, in how you look at it. So your employees are very key to the people that can be vulnerable for you in a system. So why am I saying that? That's number one that you need to look at. In anything that happens in the system, it still has to go through these employees. So it means that the percentage of having people to steal your data is a bit low, because they know that, look, the company has them at the back of their mind. So that's one. Number two will be to assess which data you need to protect. I mean, when you talk about data in the remote workplace, talking about data in terms of your, where you put your security things, is it the staff PIN numbers, or is it for a HR person, HR has access to a lot of things that has to do with employees, right? So you don't want to expose some things. Why do you want to restrict some things against some things? So when you restrict sensitive information, which information do you want to go out? You don't need an employee, you don't need a driver to have access to accounting things. You don't need a driver to have access to HR things. So you only provide what is necessary for each particular person to have access to, right? So when we look at in a company where you have a lot of data flowing, one of the key things you need to do is to make sure that the right people get the right information they need to get. All the information of the company is not supposed to be open to everybody to have that access, no. So you don't have to have an engineering person, you say, let me give the person an accounting data information. So you can see that there's no matching in that, anything. So protect your data, you have to start from inwards. So you start from inwards of the different units you have to make sure that each side are not exposed to people that don't need to have that access. So that's one of the things you do. And you restrict the kind of information that you give out. In a company, not everybody in a company needs access to everything like you say. So a project manager here doesn't need access of a pricing information. So you need people to have the right access they have in the controlled environments. So you enforce a data privacy control inside and out. So what am I talking about here? Most importantly, people try to look at data in terms of what kind of security checks that you've put in place. If people are going to resume in your office, what are the first things that they do? In Alliance, first of all, ask you to write a non-disclosure agreement. So it's part of the legal documents that you write when you're being employed. And the reason for this is that you don't take the data of the company, just in case you resign tomorrow, you want to go out. That protects the company. So before you walk in, you already know that there are things that you are not allowed to do. That if you do that, it can be sued or there's going to be legal implication to it. So that's very key. The next thing you look at is also the use of strong passwords to protect your computers and devices. So you make it difficult for outsiders to access your companies and employees' devices and computers anywhere they are. If they are lost or stolen, by protecting them with strong passwords, then what it means that you have to also enable remote wipe off of all those devices. Now we are working remotely at home, so you don't know what happens to everybody's system at home. You're giving your staff to work with their systems or laptops or whatever, or the phones at home. Remember these things, they are having access to the company data. So how do you protect that system? Peradventure, the person decides to take a USB. Do you allow people to take a USB and plug into the system? So you have to find that next extra level of security to do to prevent some of this, because even though, yes, you have to prevent it, it's not as if the staff will not still do something, but you're trying to close a lot of these loopholes so you can minimize it to the barest minimum. So when you're giving somebody a system to go home with, you make sure that, look, that system, you cannot plug in anything. If you plug it to, to detect it and ask you, you can't copy it, you can't plug the USB, you can't do this. So it helps you somehow checkmate it. And when we talk about using strong password, what are we talking about here? I have a phone here, this is my phone. I know that everything that happens in the world revolves down this. So this is more or less my business. So I don't have to have a laptop to do the business. I use this phone to do my business. Now what happens here is that if I want to look at my emails, I have what they call two-factor authentication. And what it means that if somebody hacks on my email, it must always send me a code. So if that person is not holding my phone, there is no way you're going to get the code to now hack into the second level listing to be able to have access to my email. So if a staff tries to, let's say, tries to get into somebody else's email, the staff, by the time you want to go to it, will send a notification to whoever that owns that email to ask you, are you the person that is doing this or somebody else is trying to hack? So you can imagine that, look, until the person answers and looks at, oh, this is malicious, the system will tell you if it's malicious, click on it so that you can report it. So you can see having that second level authentication is very key. Let's even take instance of what is happening recently in WhatsApp, Zoom, and the rest. You can see that there's a lot of hacking going on. So hackers are now beginning to hack groups. So people have group where they post their private things or data things for a school group or a community group or whatever group it is, or company groups. Even companies use WhatsApp now to reach their people. So in that WhatsApp, you're putting a lot of company information and that, and behold, the following day, somebody hacks into that group. Now, why are companies trying to put all these second level securities in those groups? It's to protect all these data theft. And if you look at what is happening now, you see somebody, if you don't do the two-factor authentication in WhatsApp, your WhatsApp is compromised. Because when you do that tool level, it means that it gives you access to have a 6-digit code that the person will not have unless the person has access to it. And the person cannot have access to it unless you take your phone and give it to the person. So you can see that companies from Google to Microsoft to all of them are beginning to take it very serious because they know working remotely now, heading to this new normal, is going to be a lot of challenges. And people, whether you like it or not, are also going to come out to see how can we break into this. So the more they are trying to break in, the more these companies are looking for smarter ways of closing their data as much as they can do. Another thing you need to do is also install a firewall. So if you're a company today, you need to ensure that you have a firewall that protects your business from valuable data. Why am I saying this? Every employer here or every employee here has Facebook today, you have the LinkedIn today, everybody goes to all the sites. Now, you don't know what you stream, you don't know which accesses that you do that can impact a negative influence to your companies. So when you do that, if these things are not checkmate and these firewalls are not put in place by the companies, somebody can automatically hack through your Facebook the company's data, or hack through your LinkedIn into the company's data, or hack through your Twitter, whatever it is, into the company's resources. So that's why if you say to companies, it's very key, whether you're a small company, a big company, to make sure that you have some of these things. And what has happened now is that because remote work is now shifting to people trying to say, look, why do I have to do all this security? Is there solutions out there to help it, make it easier for me? Of course. And that's why people are moving to the cloud. So the cloud now is taking some of these security things out of you, doing some of these things that you needed to do. So the cloud is now provisioning itself to say, look, when you want to do two-factor, I've provided this for you, I've provided this firewall, I've done this for you, I'm checking what is happening here, I'm filtering what somebody is doing here and there, and they're all there. So you go to class so that you can rest and do your job. So these are the kind of things the cloud environments, whether it's from Microsoft or Google, any of them that have all those things, are providing for you to help you get the things done. And you also talk about wireless. All of them are using wireless. In fact, I have about 6 of them, if I'm correct. I have the IPNX in the house. I have the dongle of MTN. I have the Airtel, name it. I have Wi-Fi.ng. All because I need to get my communications running. I can see Nireti where she's saying that, look, she has been battling with. You have to have as many as possible so that when one goes up, the other one switches in. That's where we find ourselves today, and we're not going to change it. We're not going to tell the MTNs of people make your data better, but we have to find what works for us. So if in your environment and you notice that, look, MTN works for you, even if you have an Airtel phone, go and buy the MTN dongle, because you need to be doing your work the way it is. You can't use excuses, because right now, the more you use excuses, the more chances you might be let go of your work. So everybody has to be productive in everything they are doing. So the wireless, that data you're using, you must secure it very well. So you secure it with a strong password so that even when you're logging into the MTN dongle or you're using whatever it is, the password that you put in there is highly secure, that intruders will not come into it. Because if they come into it to break it, they will have access to your data in the office. They have access to your personal files or personal data that you have. They have access to your Facebook or WhatsApp or anything you can talk about, because this is what they do. The environment is getting hot every day. So people are looking for ways of making so much money for themselves. So it has become inevitable for all of us to ensure that we do that. The last thing I will talk about data protection has to do with restricting the kind of movement of information. So it also goes back to HR people to make sure that the kind of policies that they put in place, that the policies that limit the kind of personal information of staff that they're releasing to the general group, or the kind of policies that the staff need to buy in, the company need to buy in, to make sure that, look, they protect themselves, protect the staff, and also protect the employees. And some of the things that they need to do is also, for instance, put antivirus, in all the systems to make sure that at least that one guides against it. You guide against what somebody needs to post. So if you have your personal Facebook today and you have the company's site to do some things, what should the staff post? What are the kind of information should the staff let go out there? Because you need to be very sure that they're not letting go out things that will harm the company. So these are the kind of things that you do, and you ensure that they are all secured. If a staff at home is using his personal systems to log into your system, is it secured? How can you secure that personal device to get into your office resources? So these are the kind of things that you do using all these tools to secure them, so that even when they are using their personal devices, you are protected and they're also protected. So in terms of looking at how to protect that, these are all the kind of measures that you have to put in place. So let's go to the next question that talks about IP. I mean, there are different types of IP. You talk about the copyright IP, you talk about the trademarks, the patent IP. There are about 4 or 5 of it. So we know what is the trademark. Trademark in the Coca-Cola is saying Coca-Cola. We know Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is not the name of the company, but Coca-Cola is the trademark of that particular drink. So it is their right. Somebody else cannot go and put Coca-Cola out there, right? So you know Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola, and no other company will use that trademark. It can only be used international breweries or whoever they are on that their brand. So you have the patent one, which means that the government is giving you that full right to say, okay, you're the owner of this. So let's say you manufacture this COVID drug today. You have to put a patent to it. So you get government to approve that patent right for you to do that. The same thing with when you're talking about copyright and this. Whether you're in music or in marketing, whatever it is, come and play your music without your asking for this. In your rights. So these are the kind of things that has to go through the legal framework for you to now know how these IPs are done. And when you talk about IP, it's very important to understand how IP ties into the data protection itself, because without this IP, a staff can actually be harmful to you. And that's why I said from the beginning, the first thing you need to do is just be very nice to your staffs, because they can be the source of your downfall. The staff can be the source of your downfall. So when you're nice with them in terms of the way you go about your remuneration, in terms of the way you go about things that they need to know, these are the things they should and should not do. They tend to understand that the company is not just about the owners of the company, it's also about them, because you're protecting them and you're protecting also the IP, which they have worked for. Remember that when you talk about this IP, who are the people that are doing this? It's still the staff. So you're telling them how dangerous it is that if 10 people are working in something and somebody decides to take that data out to somewhere else, how is it going to impact in the business? So people need to understand where all this is coming, and it's going to be a continuous discussion that you're having with them to explain to them how this ties into their productivity and how it's being measured into the way it could be a harmful thing to a company that have them at heart. It's very key and very important. Somebody has asked me, let me tell you one of the things that has happened in the organization recently. We had asked questions around and say, how are people coping up with this COVID at home? And we had done a survey. Some people said, oh, look, in this survey, there's a lot of distractions for them. Some say, look, it's the data issues. And one of the things that we did was like, look, make sure that we provide everybody with data. So what we have done here is this. Even though in your area you think you're using a particular service, go and look for what works for your area, and everybody was paid to have that. So you will not come to a meeting and you say, oh, your network is not working very well because you have been asked to do that and you're paid to do that. Now, one of the things that happened, I heard Nireti when she talked about in terms of remuneration, that they didn't reduce the salaries and that. Of course, some companies are reducing salaries either because the monies are not coming in the way it's supposed to come. But some are also not reducing, but they are redefining it. For instance, where you have people, you pay people for dressing allowance, you pay people for fuel allowance and all those ones. It could be redefined. So if I'm paying somebody for dressing allowance to come to the office or fuel allowance to drive to the office, and I'm saying, look, I want you to work 80% of your time at home and just 20% in the office. Is it possible to, instead of reducing the salary, define some of these things and say, look, part of this dressing allowance, I'm going to move it and add more money to it to become a money that you can take to provide, a sitting arrangement for you in the home. Because most homes are just normal homes, you know that. Most homes have your dinings and your parlor. So you didn't make provision to have an office in your home. So you're telling somebody, I'm sitting down in a home and I have my chair sitting down. You can see the health hazards of people sitting down maybe in a parlor chair, working almost all the days and days. So it's a bit challenging. So one of the things that we are doing is looking at what do we provide for somebody for a remote worker to work. So you need to have a desk. So how can we provide this? How can we structure your salaries to make sure that we can adapt to those things? To get you a desk at home, to put in one corner so that it's easier for you to have the same feeling you have in the office at home. Very key and very important. And this is what organizations need to do. It's not so much about what is coming in. It's also how your people see you and how they perceive you at carrying them along in things like that. So that when they are doing things and they are working, they are having the organization at the back of their mind, and they are doing it because they know the implication of what they are doing. So it's very key that those things are taken into the measure. So I think more or less, when you look at that manufacturing and the rest, it doesn't work to them like that. But for white-collar jobs, it is very critical that people understand how this data theft ties into the system and how it could be dangerous to the system, and why it's very important to look at all the areas in the business that can be modified to suit what people can do and what they can do. And also look at the what they call the kind of job roles they are doing. Things have changed. Their jobs have changed. So if job roles have changed, for instance, we have drivers that is transited to become engineering people. It surprises you that you have drivers that are engineering people now. So how can we transfer a driver who will think, okay, maybe his job is now redundant, to become somebody that does a networking business? So there is always an opening for everybody in the organization. So what you now need to do is to revive and look at which places can these people fit in based on the understanding you know about them, outside what you know that they are doing, and create those niche for them so that they can also be useful in the organization instead of being idle. So I think basically this is how you can curtail the way you work with your people in data protection, and also looking at how to protect the IP of what you have in your environment. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you so much, Ma. For those who were not around when we are introducing her, so Mrs. Adanma Onuegbu is the co-founder and CEO of Signal Alliance, the leading technology company in Nigeria, founded in 1996. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Economics and Extension from the Federal University of Agriculture, Makurdi in Benue State. Triple alumnus of Lagos Business School, an alumnus of Australia University of the Jack Welch Institute of Management, a member of Stanford Seeds Alumni, and a member of Nigerian Computer Society, a community leader leading CSR programs in community development, both in Signal Alliance and the community. She is married with 3 kids. Fantastic presentation from Mrs. Adanma. Nice insight there. Thank you so much, Ma, for your insights. A couple of polls have gone out, and we will share the results. I don't know what you think about that. So for most people, data is the biggest problem in remote work. In terms of the number of hours worked, more persons have worked more than 8 hours a day. In terms of employer responsibility, it's a 50-50 thing. 50% thinks that their employers have done enough, while 50% thinks their employers have not done enough. Then in terms of productivity, right, we are saying that 80% think that they're more productive working remotely. In my observation, it tells us something very, very clearly, that data is actually a need. Ms. Adanma, what are your insights on data? How can we help data? How can we provide data for our people? Is one of their biggest problems.
Very clear. I think for us, like I said before, the first thing we did during the COVID was to look at the data. Because everybody has to remotely be in meetings, everybody has to remotely be in workshops, everybody has to remotely attend to the customer needs. What we did was to make sure that we put a monthly data for our teams. So every month we send them money for data so that they can buy the data to log in. Now for the management staffs, because they have to be on top of their people and they have to almost work to ensure that all their people are doing their work, they are required to get the best dongle they can get in their area of locality. So I don't know other companies what they are doing, but I think that if you're an employee, you should take this to your company and say, look, why can't they give, if it's 5,000 a month to them, to just increase the data, this thing that they have so that they can work better. So I think it's what employers need to do. It's very key, very important, because it's not so much about what the employees are doing, but you also need to give back to them. I mean, making that sacrifice of 10,000 or 5,000 to them is not going to be so much scratching on the border. So it's very key that they understand that, look, if you need more to come out, you need more to do. And to do that more, you need to, provide your people with that. Some comes out to say, after all, we are paying full salary. But remember that when you're paying full salary, they were in the office, right? So they come to the office and use this data in the office. But now they're not in the office, they are at their homes. And they have to work. So if they have to work, there's no way they're going to get access to that office data. So all you need to do is to find a way of bringing this data closer to where they are so they can work better and be more productive. So I think for employers of labor, they need to make that sacrifice for their people to at least give them something that they increase. So if you're going to give somebody, let's say 5,000, if you buy an MTN today for 5,000 data, it gives you maybe almost 34 gig or something. So it goes a long way to help them, do as much as possible than asking them to do their own work, and the little money you pay them, they still use it to now, chunk into that data. That will not be okay. And that's why I said in the first time, be nice to your employees. It's very important because these are the people that make things work. So when you make those few sacrifices to them, they understand it. One of the things that has happened to us recently is that the government opened, businesses, right? As we speak, we have not opened. When the government opened businesses, as IT company, we're supposed to go back to business. So with business, our office is all equipped, clean, everything, security tight, everything, but we still did not want our staff to resume. And we told them, there's a reason why we don't want them to resume. We think that as far as they are working better remotely for now, we don't want to expose them the risk of going to the office and maybe you're walking into the UBA building, you don't know the kind of people you're meeting there, and one person gets that thing. Remember that not all your staffs have vehicles. So how are they going to mitigate coming to the office in a bus? Now, if they have to come with a taxi, who's that? So if we need you urgently to be in the office, we will send a driver to go to home to pick you up. Outside that, you are not required to come. So some of them are saying, oh, we didn't know you about it. There are a lot of companies that are working, going back, they are forced to go back to the office to work. And we said, you are more important to us because what do we say? We say human intelligence, human intellectuals. So we produce humans. Our human intellectuals is what Signal Alliance says as a solution. So they are for us very key, very important. So whatever it is that we are doing has to revolve around them. And I believe that every organization needs to do that, because if somebody in your organization goes down, remember that the other person has a pool of work to do. Before you get someone else to take up that job, it takes a lot of time and energy, and it can lead you to losing a lot of businesses. So it's very key that you protect all those people. And to protect them is not going to cost you anything much. It will cost you maximum, maybe it might cost you sacrifice of 20,000 for each person to just do that. So it wouldn't kill the person much. But if you don't have it and you have a boss, it's easier to pick them up from their homes. So you're sure that they are coming from their homes and they are coming into the office. But remember, you don't know what each of these staff do at their own home, right? So you can't guarantee that all the staff, when they come into your company, somebody is not carrying it. So others can be very clear and they are very, security tight in their homes. But one staff that decides to be that scapegoat that walks around, that decides to not come into the office with it, will affect every other person. So for us, no, everybody stays home and you work and protect yourself first. So that's the way we see it.
Wow, fantastic. You just redefined the business for the coming ages. Thank you so much for your input. There are a couple of questions coming in. I think we'll take that during the Q&A session, but we just have one more talk to go, and I'd like to reintroduce the person that is going to be taking a couple more questions from us. She's Mrs. Taiwo Dayo-Abatan. Let me just talk about her a bit, very, very briefly. She's a qualified HR specialist. She's the Group HR of Nigeria's leading insurance firm, Mutual Benefits Assurance PLC, overseeing over 4,500 staff. She's a dedicated, focused, and goal-oriented individual with excellent interpersonal skills. She has imbibed teamwork as a philosophy, which guides her in her career. A self-motivated person, mentor, and counselor, she is always willing to help. I want to make a confession. When I met her first, the things that got across to me was mentor, counselor, and always willing to help. So for all, I'm sorry, this is the daughter we are talking about. I guess internet connection is no respect of persons. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I was just giving an introduction of this Taiwo Dayo-Abatan, and I was just to say to all the attendees here, if you're looking for somebody to mentor, we've got the panelists here. Mrs. Taiwo is especially a mentor. She can guide you through whatever you want in terms of career advancement and many other things. We are so delighted to have you here, Mrs. Taiwo. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
right? So I guess they put a lot of things on your plate, from data to remuneration to making your employees your friend and all that. What do you make of this new work era? What do you make of it in terms of, you know, culture, in terms of business dynamics, in terms of continuity, in terms of agility? How can organizations, especially those as big as you, make sure that their employees are well motivated to work, make sure that there's continuity in the workspace, and make sure that there's agility as an organization to respond to things like this?
Thank you so much. So I want to appreciate Nireti and Adanma for the wonderful insights. And like Victor said, my plate is full. So mine will just be a top up, like a topping. So I'm the one doing the dessert here. Okay, so we all know that the work environment is now extremely interesting and very dynamic. And also, we also know that culture is also dynamic. And so the kind of culture companies need to begin to adopt now must be the ones that would support their strategy. And we also know that the way strategy was before is like in January, you can actually formulate your strategy and then just begin to work out the milestones. But the way it is now is almost on a day-to-day basis, you need to begin to relook your strategy. So I will talk about culture. It's important that organizations begin to adopt a culture of innovation, Nireti talked a lot about ideating, and so most companies are beginning to adopt design thinking, whereby you are looking at, it's not about what the company prefers, but it's like, what does the customer want? And also, the mindset of the customer is also changing. So because of the pandemic, people have changed. So it's more about ideating and developing things whereby you are able to still be at the cutting edge and be able to offer value to your customer. So at our own end, we actually have a culture of innovation. Before COVID, we're on the verge of starting our innovation lab. So the environment was already healthy enough for people to begin to bring ideas to the table on what next should we do around product development, around processes, around our policies. So a lot of dynamism was already going on in our business. And so that is what companies should adopt now around culture. Now, also around culture, you need to develop a culture of empathy. A culture of empathy whereby your employees buy into your brand. Now, I was saying before the program started that the kind of employees that left pre-COVID are not the same kind of people that returned. People are now more aware. The level of self-awareness now is now so high that you see employees even returning back to work and turning down your job, resigning. So the time of the employer having the upper hand has changed now. So companies need to adopt a culture of empathy whereby you are being a little bit more considerate to your people. And so how do you do that? We know what's on ground, COVID. So it's more of, at our own end, we initially had to begin to update employee data and records to be able to know where do they live, how do they come to work, showing more of concern. Apart from that, there were a lot of education around COVID-19 protocol. It was more like we were choking them with this information. Almost every 30 minutes, emails were being released around the COVID-19 protocol, how people should protect themselves. So, you know, the employee knows, it helps the employee to endear themselves to your brand. And then the third one also was to lead by example. So if you have a COVID-19 protocol whereby everybody needs to wash their hands, you know, go through the thermometer test and all that, leadership has now become a critical skill.
Exactly.
Well, I think data is up.
In the workplace.
Yes.
Leadership is being tested daily in the workplace. What are we doing? Who is leading the initiative? Who is leading the change to motivation? Now need to be more equipped around coaching, individual coaching of their team members to performance. So it's no more, yes, I've set your KPI because I can see you, I can actually encourage you to performance. But now the employees are working remotely, whereby in a week, an employee may not even interact.
Well,
interact with any of his or her teammates. So how do we now begin to encourage that employee to sustain performance? And that's probably a point of concern. And so being able to, more importantly, also around motivation, and I will put another word beside it, which is communication. So the way communication happens in the workplace now is different. You are communicating in three ways. You are communicating all the time, business sustenance and continuity, because now employees are becoming anxious. You see employers now having to slash salaries, and then nobody's giving any reason. So as HR, we are communicating business sustenance and business viability and sustainability and continuity. We're also communicating health and wellness to our people. Because they are working remotely, how do we manage them at that end? How do we ensure that they are balanced emotionally and psychologically? The only way we can do that is to touch base with them via communication. The third one also is that HR has come to a place whereby, because there's so much false information going on out there, you need to begin to close the gap all the time to be the interface around information management with your people. So that's another critical role that HR has had to assume with the new normal. Now, around continuity, before I now move to agility, most companies have had to trigger out their business continuity plan. Some have it in 3 phases, some have it in 2 phases. So immediately the information around COVID started, companies triggered off BCP plan, BCP1. What do we do if we are not allowed, we are told to leave work? And eventually it happened. And so HR had to come to the space of identifying the critical roles, the critical employees that are needed to ensure that the business was still able to continue. The second thing was to ensure that they are equipped with the adequate tools needed. Adanma and Nireti have spoken a lot around that, around data, around giving them the adequate tools, around restricting them even in their movement of coming to work. Even in the COVID period, we saw some organizations having to have their people on site to come and work, despite that means they hadn't made enough investments around technology. And also, in terms of business continuity, we're even saying the numbers are rising. What if there's another lockdown? So companies need to begin to also look at it. If there's going to be a second lockdown, are we able to still continue business? So that calls for a reassessment. So we are saying, okay, we are working remotely, everything is fine, but there must be a continuous reassessment and fine-tuning of the processes, even more around technology, to ensure that if peradventure there's another need for a total lockdown, the business is able to still move on. I'll move now to agility. Agility basically means being swift, being nimble, being able to meet your customers' needs in a faster way. Agility centers around your people, your processes, your policies, your environment, everything in totality. And agility is the new way, is a new normal now. I said something to someone this morning in another lecture, and I said before we could say we could lead on strategy. So there are 3 strategies. I could lead cost leadership. I could say my own strategy is niche, but, oh wow, am I still here? Yes.
Yes, you are here.
Yes, I could say I want to lead by cost, I want to lead by a niche, or I want to lead by differentiation, adding extra value. But now, the best way now to lead is with your culture. If the culture is an agile one, that means you are meeting the customer first before your competitors. And I would say that in 5 ways, agility is being nimble. Agility involves you engaging constantly. And when I say engaging constantly, let's look at what we just had now. We've had polls being done here. So what does the customer need? Being able to engage with your internal people and also the external market. What do they want? Now you see more of employers investing in the employer brand now as part of agility. So companies are coming out to touch base with customers to say we empathize with you, we're in touch with you, so that when this period tides over, they've built an emotional relationship with the customer. So you see a lot of brand projection out there. Companies are investing in brand equity. And also, it's important also internally that for agility to work with the organization, you need to develop a learning and innovative environment. Constant learning. And now it's so easy because now it's technology driven. So there are webinars, there are trainings, there are sessions. Now is the time for HR to be at the forefront of driving learning and innovation within our organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. It's very exciting to hear your insights on this, talking about constant learning, talking about agility, design thinking, customer empathy. Those are very keywords that can differentiate a business in these times. Thank you very much, Mark. Yeah. I want to say this just to pick up from where you talked about learning. So one of the things we thought about in this webinar is how can we, empower employees as well. You just talked about learning and design thinking. So thank God for our partners, the Wikipedia Institute. So we are partnered with them and we are giving away 5 scholarships to participants of our program today. Yeah, we are yes, and that just to let them know that, hey, even if you don't have a job, or you are in a job and you want to move to the next level, or you don't know what to do, there is a path for you to take. You can have this MBA scholarship and really move from where you are to where you are going to. The Wikipedia Institute is the brainchild of Professor Nireti Adebayo. He's one of the foremost thinkers that Nigeria has ever produced. His patent is being used by Apple. He's a professor and on the board of many companies worldwide. He consults for governments, for blue-chip companies, and for different kinds of organizations. And this one institute that can transform an employee from being just an ordinary employee to a star performer and even an entrepreneur. We'll be announcing the scholarships at the end of the program today. But for right now, I want to take some questions. There's some very interesting questions that have come up here in the Q&A session, and I'll just take it one by one. So one says, one of the disadvantages of working remotely is the bloodline that now surrounds working hours as opposed to fixed work hours. Now we are almost working around the clock. How do we get employers to respect our off-work hours when working remotely? As now, no time is too odd for a meeting to be scheduled. And our post actually suggests this kind of scenario. So we see that 77% say they work more now. They work more than 8 hours. So really, I want to pose to Mrs. Taiwo, how do employers respect the off hours of the employees?
While I know that the business every company is a going concern, it's important that the employers need to begin to respect the lives of employees. And we see with COVID, there are no barriers. So initially it started, I was having meetings till 9, till 10, but this is where HR now comes in to define basically, to set the rules around employee engagement. One, do they have their deliverables to do? Yes. Well-defined deliverables, put in place how you can monitor their performance. And if it's for interaction, there should be time set for meetings. There should also be time for, just the way we do our normal 9 hours, 1 hour for lunch, there should be well-defined time whereby the employee can have time for themselves. It's really, really important because many people are even going through more stress at home than in the workspace. So HR needs to define the fine lines around the work environment, though employees are working remotely. Yes, there should be well-defined meeting times, there should be well-defined rest time for employees, carefully documented and communicated to all of them.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I guess this is one lesson that we all can learn. I have another question here that is very interesting. I want to pose this to Mrs. Adanma. So the question says, in the case whereby your organization puts the employee's life at risk by working every day from the office premises, how do you go about that? My organization is not technologically inclined. We work every day with the increase in number of COVID-19 cases, and 1 or 2 of our employees got the infection. Please bear in mind that no transportation measures for the employees. How do I mitigate against the risk of not getting infected and working from the office premises? I'd like to say though that this is not just about the COVID experience, where really it's about remote work. So if I would want to rephrase the question is, I would say, how do employees respond to employment practices that are not safe and healthy? And how do you ensure HSE policies and compliance in organizations?
So if you may ask me, I think I put a chart on the other one. We have the question and answer section, and we also have the chat. So yeah, okay. I made a note to somebody that said something like that. Is it Jamil on that chart? Yes. Yeah. It's very important that employees say their mind, either you put it by email or something. Always say what is happening so the business will understand. Either you go to the HR or admin or whoever it is to make that case, because most times people don't know what's going out there until they hear some of these things. So people make policies and they don't know how, they know the real life environment that is going out, except when somebody says what has happened. In my company, what have we done? Like I said, we didn't want anybody to work, so it was a conscious effort to do that. Some other organizations, you might need people to come to the work. Now, I heard where he was saying, oh, they are asking, change this thing, you should use your transport money to become your data and all that. Now, if in that scenario that somebody is asking you to do that, in this scenario this guy is talking about, I don't see any reason why the staff should go to the office, because it just linked to what I have said there. There is exposures. Now, you're asking somebody that doesn't have a car to come to the workforce, and this person is going to enter a bus, right? He might even cover his, I mean, how long will you be able to breathe with covering yourself? You might be in a 1 hour or 2 hour traffic. To breathe with that thing is not even easy. So sometimes people tend to, you know, move out their face masks and just take a bit of air. So in that split second, anything can happen. So how do employers of labor ensure that these things happen? I think for the employees, it is their right to demand and, you know, write it there because it's your right. Look, in the workforce, you have the employers and employees' rights, even the labor rights to do some certain things. No employer is allowed to expose their staff to danger. Nobody is allowed to expose their staff. Take your case, and I tell you, if you go to law, you will win. So if somebody wants you to be in the office, there's nothing wrong being in the office. So the company needs to be able to provide you with all necessary, things that you should provide yourself with. So either they provide you with the transport or get a driver to pick you up if they are not very sure, because we are, like I said, entering a bus, one person can create that issue that the whole people in the company will be affected. Yeah, I'm even surprised he's saying 2. Who knows? If they go back and check, you might have more than 2, right? So why they're doing everybody in the office when they could have just paid a 5,000 token to the same staff? So make a case for your company and say, look, is it better for you to just pay a 5K to every one of us and ask us to work from home? Or is it better for you that we come and we contact this and even prevent or somebody dies? Yeah. What is the plan of the company? I mean, would you want to employ your staff to die? Nobody plans for this. So you cannot be in your house and you want that guy to risk his life because you have a car, the guy don't have a car. So why not look at what is workable and get it sorted out? So the only way to do that is that you have a right, and your right is that you have a right to life. Nobody, even if you're working for money, nobody has the right to terminate your life. So because you have a right to life, you should demand, put up a nice email, write it to HR and say, look, you don't think you want to continue coming to office because of this that has happened. There is no place to send that thing that company will not be fired or will not be asked to pay compensation. Request that, look, it is easier for them to pay you 5,000 or whatever it is that they want to pay, to say, buy extra data and sit at home and work. Because you're even more productive, you're even working more. So what are we talking about here? You stay at home, you work. If there is a problem, they know what to do it. Look, our people work at home, even when they are just a little bit sick. The HR is called, we call everybody. See, the reason why we do checks on people is that when we call, we want everybody to put on their videos. You can be in your bathroom, it's okay, just put on your video, we just want to see your face. And when they see your face, I will see a lot of people with this kind of beers and like, you're not shaving, that's good. Stay there because nobody wants you to have any issues. So it is nice. It is good for the employers to track their people by once in a while. You can do maybe either once a week or during the thank God it's Friday time or whatever it is, to do a spot check on your people. So suggest all these things to them and say, look, if you want to be sure that we're working, do a spot check. You can do HR can do every week. You post up, everybody put up your Zoom or Team or whatever it is, and you're seeing everybody. Just make sure that they are okay. But you cannot risk the life of an employee because the person wants to work. Of how much? The death of that person is not what the money is being paid. So it's very important that you as a person demand your right and get the feedback. That feedback will tell you whether that company really have you at heart or not. It's very important that you do that, please. It's very key. So for me, it would be that you write a mail, nice mail to the company and request that, look, this is a health issue, and that if it has happened to 2 people now, even the cost of putting those people, the trauma alone, is going to affect everybody. The mental thing is what they're not thinking. The way people think about, oh, these 2 have it. Am I having it? You're sleeping with one eye, you're not sure. Whether you also, it's going to happen to you because you don't know. It's even too much. So I think it's high time that even employees demand what is the right thing to do. It's not going to kill anybody. The highest they will do is, okay, don't work. And if they do that, you have a case. If somebody is going to fire you because you demanded that, look, you need to prevent and protect yourself, then you have a case.
Sorry, I want to chip in something. Adanma, well said. Okay, so what I observed in the last 1 month was that I had about 8 employees who lost their parents.
Oh, my
God.
Yes. So we quickly had to come up with something, and I said for every employee who has lost a parent, you go away for 2 weeks.
Exactly. Contact tracing.
2 weeks. Yes, go away for 2 weeks, and when you are coming, come back COVID-19 free certified.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yes. So there was a lot of uproar around it. I said it's not about stigmatization. First and foremost, we need to safeguard the lives of other employees.
Yeah.
Yes, and then for case by case, we say, oh, my mother is in the village, or this or that. Yes, but that was the standard policy. Everybody, anyone who loses a parent or a family member in the last 1 month have been told to go 2 weeks and then return back after 2 weeks. Because like Adanma said, it's not even about, it's the psychological effect.
It's psychological effects,
on the other members of the team.
Yeah.
And more even about, people will say I'm more business savvy than HR. It's even about business continuity also.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
If the news goes out there, they shut your company down.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you need to be disinfected, you need to get your certification, get everything before business starts. So why would you want that risk? So to that person, please talk to your HR. You have that right. It's about your own personal health and safety. They should find a way of ensuring that employees are able to work remotely. We have even had to, even our staff bosses had to go on 60%. And as we speak, we've gone back to 40-60, the ratio of employees on site. So if you can work remotely, please stay away, as long as you can measure performance. And that's the way to go. Yes.
Yeah, that's the way to go. And I want to talk a bit about meetings. I think, and what I'm thinking is this. And so, I mean, there are various organizations with the various structures. And I think here, as we're having this meeting, we're assuming that we're talking to everyone who has a great organizational culture and a structure as well. You know, but one of the things that we noticed during this COVID is that a lot of organizations do not have any contingency plan. And that is the truth. And so because they do not have that plan, they cannot manage the situation as it is right now. And I think that's one of the station of Jamil who is talking about having to go to the office and all that, because there is no proper plan for them. So because we have almost 7,000 nationwide, so what we did was to dissect our staff and know which of the staff will be more prone to having COVID. And those were the logistic officers, those were the fleet officers, those were the officers in manufacturing. So what we did, first of all, we have our cluster teams. So we have to find a way to reach 7,000 people, not only by email, not only by Yammer, not only by Microsoft Teams, because some people may not even have the Android phone to download Teams. So you have to consider that. Exactly. So one of the things we did was to dissect us. And then for those who do not have the phones and all of that, we call everyone one by one. Everyone all over the country. Good. So we have the different teams, including the WhatsApp groups. So we have team leaders, we have regional executives, and we ensure that we had our town hall meetings with them. We had webinars with them. We talked about their psychological time, and even at the office premises, all our water dispensers, it's automated. So that way you're washing your hands, and we don't take visitors. In fact, there was no work for 3 months. And if you don't have a car, you cannot come to the office. And if you must come to the office, then it's because you just have to be in the office because you can work from home. And you must have all the protective gears. And so one of the things we did for this level of staff was to provide them with protective gears. So we did masks, sanitizers, and then of course we gave out palliatives because this is important. And so we have to show humanity from this perspective, and that's really important. So talking about a lot of these organizations, they do not have such structures that will be able to ensure that they are able to plan for what is happening right now. And I also feel it's important that at least once there has to be a meeting, so you know what everybody is doing, especially at the head office. You know what everybody is doing. For all the other staff all over the country, we meet at least once a month, and that's what we just started to do now. And so there has to be cluster leaders, cluster teams who would make sure that their team members are doing okay. And I believe that these days one must have a one-on-one interaction with our people. So if we're going to be CEOs and we're going to be management people that are not approachable, or people cannot meet and say their minds or talk directly, then we have not started at all. What COVID has taught us is to be leaders and not bosses. And I mean leaders that have hearts and leaders that have minds. And I believe what Adanma and Taiwo have actually done a great job talking about what the expectations of companies in this time of COVID and also beyond. But I believe it's important that we must have cluster teams who would actually know what everybody is doing at every point in time. And of course, meetings regularly, it's also very important. And I love what Ada, also said about having data and all that. In my organization, we don't have that, but what we did was we give bulk monies to everyone, bulk monies, to everyone. So that way they can either do their tables, their chairs, buy food for the house, and take care of their data and all that. So that's what we're doing. We are planning to do, another one very soon. So I believe it's important. What COVID has done is to bring out the humanity in us. And I believe it's really important, both as employers and also employees. This is actually the time. And we have to learn to speak out without being rude. We have to learn to push our points out, and we have to learn to communicate because it's important. Because for Jamio, if your organization do not know what you are going through, it's difficult for them to come up and find a solution to it. So just like Taiwo and Adanma have said, you have to approach them. They have to know what you are going through. They have to know the hazards that you're facing. And truth be told, some employers are outrightly horrible, and that's the truth. Some don't even care about what is happening in their organizations. But for such organizations, you will see the impact as well. I believe that what a lot of employers do not know is that emotional intelligence is actually a critical catalyst to a success in the organization.
Yeah.
And that is what COVID is teaching us now. So I just rest here for now.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So many great insights, and I like what you articulated over and over again. That this has brought out the humanity in us. We are about rounding up now. Just a few things to go. I don't know if I can take a lot of questions, but there's this one that really touched me. This person said, Good evening to our panelists and hosts. We're delighted to be here. So I understand this is a webinar for working remotely. This is, however, only possible when you have a job already. How do you find remote jobs for those out of job already? Secondly, is there an opportunity for career mentorship, specifically from the panelists? I would want to be absorbed of such mentorship scheme. I want to say right here and now, if you are this person who put this question, you already automatically have the scholarship for the Techidia mini MBA program. Yeah, yeah. The second thing
okay.
And the second thing I would like to know is who amongst the panelists want to be a mentor to this person. I guess the person who typed this question can send an email to me, and then I will just connect to any of the panelists. I know Mrs. Nireti is open to mentorship, Mrs. Taiwo is open to mentorship, and Mrs. Ada is also open to mentorship. So whoever asked this question, I think you're a lucky person who found it out. Another question he mentioned that's actually very, very interesting. Said, how do you find remote jobs for those out of job already?
Okay, can I just quickly take that?
Yes.
So in my organization, we have what we call the Cleon alum.
Okay.
The Cleon alum and also the Cleon entrepreneurship class. So because we have to deal with thousands of employees all the time, and some will have to go out of the jobs and lots of jobs and all that. So what we did with my team was to think about a strategy to ensure that they stay financially independent and how we can support, So what we did was to say, first of all, you have become Cleon alum. As long as you've been in Whytecleon before and you have left, you are our alum. So it's our responsibility now to see how you continue to be financially independent. And so amongst them, we asked what they were interested in doing. Some said, oh, they didn't have enough money to start work. And some said, oh, they would like to do small businesses. Some would do small startups. So what we did was to have a Whytecleon entrepreneurship class. So what we did was to invite our friends who are entrepreneurs and some who lecture even at EDC and some who have their own businesses. So what we did was to have an entrepreneurship class for 2 days. And so for those who are just starting out, who are interested in starting out, everybody was there. And so there was a lot of training that went on to that and a lot of suggestions on the sort of businesses that they can do. And I'm happy to say that quite a number of them are financially independent. There was a particular one who came up to tell me last week that she's not even interested in working full-time anymore. She's had 2 offers since she left us. You know what she started to do?
Yeah.
She started to sell eggs. She started to sell eggs. And within a space of 1 month, she was distributing 250 crates of eggs.
Wow.
Now she's become a major distributor. Now she's starting her Greek, and she's doing a lot of other businesses that are even keeping her busy. All this happened in a space of 6 months. And so what I tell people who are talking about not getting a job and not knowing what they should do is that first of all, are you trustworthy? Because it's about integrity. If people are going to invest in your business, no matter how little, they have to trust you. And so if you have the passion to start a business, you do not need millions to start a business. What you need is your passion. What you need is your creativity. And what you need is the quality of the work that you want to do. Do you have anybody who can vouch for you? And I believe that at the rate that we're moving now, relationships and collaborations are going to be strictly based on integrity. And so we need to begin to ask ourselves, what level of integrity do we have that will enable anyone to want to invest or partner with us? And so for people here who may not have a job, you have to think about what you have interest in. What are you passionate about that can turn around to give you something? And if you do not have that job, go and do volunteer work. Go and volunteer. And that is one of the things we don't do in this country. But what volunteering does for you is, one, it sharpens your skill. Secondly, it gives you a shortcut to being employed. Okay? And thirdly, it gives you a sense that you're still in a sector where you want to work. And so it's really quick when people are asking, or when organizations are asking, what have you done in the last 6 months, in the last 1 year? So you have a short gap, but yes, you're working in an organization as a volunteer. And you may even be amazed that the organization will hire you if you are effective.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. A lot of questions coming in, but I don't know that we can take a lot. But one last question I would like to take is this from Ozavize Undovive. What about some organizations that deal with lots of paper and this makes working from home difficult? I guess this is one for Mrs. Adanma. Organizations that deal with lots of paper and this makes working from home difficult.
I didn't get you, Glenn.
So this person is asking that what about organizations that still deal with a lot of paperwork, which makes remote working very difficult? I mean, remote working is about working online, working digitally.
Definitely, organizations need now to move on. Look, if I know the organization, I will have to advise them that look, they have to go cloud. So cloud could do the Google Cloud. Me, I use the Microsoft Cloud. So it does everything for me. So when you go to the Microsoft 365 Cloud, you're just there. Because that's what we give organizations. So we provide it for organizations so that they will remove a lot of things that has with all the security stories that we're talking about, and they focus on the business. So if you have all those in provision for you, you don't need to worry about all those paperwork. And you can hear when Nireti talked about implementing processes. So what we need to do is that, does the company really want to stay in focus of the business, or do they still want to stay where they are? Because where they are is not going to stay for a long time, whether they like it or not. The environment will change. The other people that are in their business are changing the dynamics, and they are moving forward to do other things and to expand their business. So if this company is not thinking in that line, or saying, oh, are we going to spend X, Y, Z to now do this? What they should understand is that they are going to lose more, because you have competitions in every aspect of every business that you have in this world. So if you don't do what is the right thing, somebody else will take that meat that you have and move forward, and you will definitely either die or you choose a different level of work. So I would advise here that this organization should move to the cloud. You can move to Google Cloud, or you go to Microsoft 365 Cloud, that now gives this access to all the things we are talking about remotely here. So you have access to do your two-factor authentication, means that as I'm talking to you here, somebody cannot hack by email. It's already been provisioned for you, securely tied. Microsoft gives you a 99.9% uptime, so nobody will go and hack it. That's what they're saying. It cannot be hacked, because these security things you are talking about, they have already provisioned it for you. So you have it already provisioned for the cloud. All you need to do is to bring your devices, what they call BYOD, bring your own devices, means that it doesn't matter whatever device you're using. As far as you want to have access to company data, it is already secured. So the day you walk out of the company, the data stays with the company, and you walk out and they say bye-bye. So everything is all well planned and secured. So for this organization, I would say they really need to move fast. It is very important that they begin to think about moving their processes. Anything that they do, let me tell you, the good thing is that anything you can do manual, you can automate it. Yeah. As far as you can do it manual, it can be doable. Anything. And that's what we do for a lot of companies. So just think about, visualize it, what you're doing manual. All technology does is to bring that same manner into the automation style, so that it flows seamlessly for you. You want to go on leave. Normally, everybody there, you do a paper leave, and maybe the Oga day is in Kafanchan. You have to wait for him to come back from that place to come and sign leave paper. I mean, who does that these days? So, but right now you have leave that automated. Wherever you are, if you like, be in the moon. As far as you have the email that says, please click on this link and approve this leave, you're doing it wherever you are. And the work process is happening in real time online. And you can see the reports and the results. So things need to really move faster. So if your company is not doing that, I think you need to bring it to the table that, look, you need to start automating some of these processes. And there are a lot of people out here that can do that for them at little fees, so that some of these workloads can be removed and you can focus on the business.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that's all the questions that we can take for today. In closing, at MyKhaban, like I said before, we are a real estate and technology company, and we just want to look for better ways to serve our customers. Our customers are basically people who live, work, and play. So we do everything from office fit outs to making offices work for people. we did some kind of survey, and we sort of looked at what the customers want to see, right? And we came up with this solution called the remote work suite. And I want to sound this with my panelists out here. If you had a remote work suite that is an energy desk, that's got a modem, that's got a noise cancelling headphone, and that's got a VR set, do you think it is a viable solution? An energy desk is basically a desk that has, whenever you're on that desk, you have power. It gives you at least 10 hours of power supply from renewable energy sources. So your employee don't complain about buying fuel, about electricity supply and all that. You always have them always powered. That is one. Then of course it's got a modem for internet connectivity. Then one other thing that we thought about was distractions. So people work in offices and they are now working at home. You might be at home and then you have a pet. You are having a conference call with your colleagues and your dog is barking. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is have a headphone like the one I'm having that cancels the background so that you can have meaningful communication with whoever you're speaking to. Then of course we talked about well-being, right? And then we thought about it, that how can we make workers be in good mental states. Yeah, and we thought about the VR headset. So the VR headset is a virtual reality headset that can take you to destinations that are relaxing. So a lot of times we use them for mental therapy. You want to be immersed in an environment that is calming, is relaxing. After they have this job and a lot of work stress, you want to have an escape. So imagine walking and you want to escape. You want to be in somewhere like Bali. You want to enjoy that kind of scenery. The VR headset helps you to achieve that. So I want to know from our panelists, does this actually meet a need? Is this something that can be recommended to organizations to adopt? Yeah, I want to start with Mrs. Adanma. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I was looking to get feedback from our remote work suite. There's an energy desk that's got a modem, that's got noise cancelling headphones, and that's got VR sets for virtual experiences. Is this something that is good for organizations? Is this something that helps solve the problem?
Definitely. Okay, now let me give you some scenarios of what is. This is beautiful. I mean, I'm seeing what you're showing here. This is nice.
Yeah.
And when I talk about people being at home to have this, so it will also depend on the centers of the home. I know some homes are smaller and some homes are, have that ability to take. So the most important thing is that whichever one that fits the home, I think it wouldn't be bad for an organization to, map out a token. Either you do it as a monthly stipend that is added to the person pay, or it's a one-time fee to say, just buy this and have it there. Remember, when we talk about remote work, it's not so much about sitting at home to do work, right? The offices are opened. So remote work is not because we are locked down. Remote work is how you can work remotely. So what are organizations doing now? So people are changing the dynamics, right? So two things are happening. Some people are saying, do we need to even have this kind of big office space in the company? Should we do more of a co-working space? There are companies now that have environments that are workspace environments. So if your staff is, needed to go to a company to do exactly something like this, so they just rent it. So if I have to pay, let's say, a 10 million in a space, will it make sense for me to pay a 1.5 or 2 million as employer of labor in a co-shared environment like this, where I can walk in, everything is already there, do whatever I need to do, and I leave, right? So you provide it for your staff, or do it. So there's going to be a lot of changes, because if you need to do more for your staff, you also need to cut some costs some other places. So even some costs that you need to do before might really be channeled out to other things that will benefit the staff. So if you ask me today, do I want even to have that gigantic office? I would say no. I would say, look, either I go and negotiate with the landlord, right? Or I look at this co-working space and have a sharing where I can just rent it like a subscription base. You rent it for this thing, and each staff that needed to go out or needed to attend to a customer and needed to be very close to the customer can just walk in there, do the work, and he's off. So we don't need to keep this kind of big office that, I mean, right now it's locked up and everybody's at home. It doesn't make any sense. So it's more of having somebody have their work-life balance in saying, why do you now need to come and pass all these traffics and all this? So maybe we can take it a little bit for you to say, maybe you do 50% or 60% of some of the work at home, and you do part of it, maybe, this kind of environment or even in the office. So what does it do for you? What it means is that you're asking the staff, I don't want you to come 8 to 6 every day, but I need you to do maybe half of the week at home, half of the week in the office. So companies are beginning to change the way the work dynamics is. Whether I like it or not, it's happening and it has to happen. Even when things are normalized, people are not going to go back to the old ways because you have to find a way of being relevant, being more productive, and give a better input for your people. So if I have to save the money I'm paying a rent and put it in my staff's money, I think it's better for me to do that, and they're happy getting more pay, than for me to keep in that gigantic place. And it's just for an open space that is not really giving back to me what I needed. So it's better for me to give that staff a chair and a table in the house than paying for a big rent in a UBA big house. So I think companies are beginning to look at way options, except where the office is your own. Even when it's your own, you're asking yourself, you're incurring so much cost.
Even when it's not, yeah.
You need to still look back and say, where do you remove some things and where do you add some things? You're going to give more. There's going to be more to the employees, employees. But it then means that you have to really look inwards and say, what can you reduce to now give more? You're not going to change so much, but you just shivel some, cash flow in and out, and now see where it would tell them more. Because the more you give this employee, the more they do, they produce better. And that's the end point. What is the end point of the business? Is to make money, is to grow. And
Absolutely.
Growth is not about standard, having a high rise and you want to just shake your hands. No. It's about the people, it's about that productivity. So I think that's where all this is coming. It's very important. Either you have it as a private collaboration work that you have, or some nice settings in the house, like what you have shown here at the private work in the house, depending on the structure of the house where it is. I mean, you can do this and say, everybody show me where you want to put your this thing. And you can have a handshake with a furniture company, or give everybody, maybe someone is okay, buy it, or anyone. And they put it there. I think it will go a long way, and it impacts positively to them. That the company has given you a table and a chair that is now your own in your house. I mean, when you want to do some certain things, and we are talking about data protection, when they want to do some certain things, they are thinking about the kind of things that you've done for them. And even when it's flashing in their mind, they're like, I can't do it to this my employee. That's the idea.
I think what Ada said, we have a Google Space, by the way, in our office.
Okay.
And we've had ours for almost 4 years now. Adanma has been there as well. And speaking from that perspective, I think what you see, it's people who are not so much as in a hurry to even want to leave the office.
Yeah.
Because they know if they want to lie down, they can go there to lie down. If they want to go play food table or board games at any point in time, they can go there. And I think that's one of the basic things that we started almost 4 years ago, to ensure that the office is just a workspace, but you can actually be at home while you're in the office. And honestly, from what Ada said, it's working, because we've seen a lot of organizations who come to us and they're like, oh my gosh, we want to replicate it in our office. And they go there to try to replicate in their offices as well. So I believe that work has moved from what it used to be many years ago, because we've been talking about future of work now for about 6-7 years in my organization. So, and I think it's high time that organizations begin to look at individuals as human beings and not just mere assets that we just keep in a space and just expect them to churn in targets here and out at every point in time. So this is really nice. This is really nice. And I believe a lot of organizations should be interested in having something as this. And even for us, we have a cooperative society. And so for any of our staff, for instance, who are interested in getting something like this, they can also always annex it and the cooperative pays for it while, they can pay on installment basis. So I believe it's a great thing. it's good for business, and I believe a lot of organizations will be interested. And more so that people are looking inwards now to see how they can bring out the best in their talents.
Okay, for me, it's 100%. And you know, if people see, people need to have a mindset shift. We are not going back. The work environment has changed. We are not going back
forever.
Some people still think COVID-19 will end and then we'll go back to normal work life. What you have showcased is the future, and the future is now. The future is now. So this is the way to go in terms of equipping our people around being able to balance work and life. Also, Nireti talked about the demographics. As you mentioned, the millennials. You will see employees coming now to negotiate their contracts with you. Now, because they're entrepreneurial driven, they also want their own time. That's one of the realities of COVID-19. People are looking on what else can I do with my time. So you see an employee telling you, I will put in just this number of hours for you, rework my contract. So a lot of dynamics are changing within the work environment. Yes. And so because there's also a war for talent out there, you want to also keep your best hands. This is one of the ways to which you can retain them. Find a way of depositing into their emotional bank account. It's also a way of improving your value proposition to your employee. So this is fantastic. I would want to know more about this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Good feedback. So those you just gives us some kind of light on what society needs, and the essence of business, the essence of conversation is to really know how to align things. So you can't be you need to have empathy as a service provider. You need to have empathy as an employer, and as an employee, you need to understand what your employer wants, and that is really the crux of this webinar. Yeah, so I announced earlier on that we are giving out five scholarships for the Wikipedia MBA on this platform. The first person who was given is the one I mentioned earlier that sent a question talking about how to find a job and all that. So that person has got a scholarship. Please send a mail to me. I'll share my contact. I'll share the contact of the screen right away. Please send a mail to the email address that you see on the screen. Sorry, a minute. Send an email to the contact address here. There you go. Send an email to the contact address, and you will communicate to you. Right. The other four persons I know Mrs. Nireti mentioned Mr. Jamil. So Mr. Jamil, also send your email address. Also send an email to the email address which you see on the screen. I don't know if the screen is showing the right thing right now. But again, we'll send our emails to and the content of this discussion to the email which you used to register. So everybody is going to have the mail. So Mr. Jamil, the person who sent the question on remote work and how to find a job, Mrs. Ozazoe that asked the question on paperless office and the challenge with that. Then I don't know, we have space for two other persons. So yeah, just send a mail and then we have space for two other persons right now. Wow, I can't thank you enough for attending this webinar. I want to have last word from the panelists before we close. Mrs. Nireti, we start with you.
Thank you so much, Victor. It's been a wonderful learning and sharing time. I've actually learned a lot. I was just chatting with my colleagues and I'm like, these people are making sense. They're making sense. Because I mean, it's always great when you have people who are eager to make impact, in the society and places of work. But what I would like to say is things have changed and we have to change as well. And I believe that we have to constantly review even ourselves at every point in time. We have to review our competencies. We have to review our relationships. We have to review our collaborations. We just have to constantly review who we are, what we do, and how we can give back. Our life must be a life of impact. And honestly, for those who are looking for jobs, you need to look at your inner self and see what you need to do. Why are you not getting a job? What else do you need to do? How are you doing your self-development? What is your personal development plan? You know, what are the things that you are good at? What are the things that you're passionate about? You just have to reach your inner self to be able to, you know, get that answer for you. And honestly, the God factor is also there. We cannot take away the God factor, you know, so we have to constantly, you know, also pray for direction. But more than ever, the environmental workspace has changed forever. It's just only going to continue to evolve over time. It's very disruptive. But the truth of the matter is, if you look at it as it's a negative disruption, then you may never go anywhere. The train will leave before you want to catch up. But it's a positive disruption, and we have to run with it. We have to leverage on technology. We have to leverage on people. We have to leverage on our competencies, and we have to continue. We have to continue to learn and unlearn those things that are not working for us. We have to upskill at every point in time. So that would be my closing for now. Thank you, everybody. It's so great to have you here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. Mrs. Taiwo?
What I would say at this point in time is that every one of us should develop resilience. It's a trying time, both for the employee, for the employer, for the business owner, for government, for everybody. And so now is the time to develop and build our resilience. While we're developing that, we're developing also inner capacity to manage challenges. This is COVID-19. We don't know what is the next one coming. More importantly also, we should not close the door to continuous learning. Nireti has said that. We need to improve on our competencies. And each time I have an opportunity to be on a panel or be in a webinar, it's an opportunity also for me to improve on myself. I've learned new things from Adanma, I've learned new things from Nireti, and it's really, really a privilege being here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mrs. Adanma?
Okay, I'm sure both of them have said all that needed to be said. And I'm very happy that Nireti says that it's a learning curve for all of us. So each time you do some of these things, you're learning from everybody to hear what, you know, the different perspectives of what's going on. And I'm so blessed today, at least new things that I've heard today that I'm also going to even impact in my own business, which is very key. One of the things that I want people to take out here is that there is this belief that the employer, because is the employer, and you think that your voice doesn't matter. I think your voice matters in a lot of ways. And I think you don't have to be afraid to lay some things that you need to lay. Secondly is that as a staff, a change can happen by a staff. You can come up with an idea today that can completely change the entire way the company comes and looks. So when you see the big giants of this world now, it wasn't by the owners, it wasn't by the business people. It came from maybe one little person in the company that brought up one idea and it happened. So don't let your idea shrink with yourself. Get it out there. Bring it up to the open. You might not know, it might change the way things are, and you will be surprised what you can bring to the table as an employee of an organization. Secondly, we have to do that. Everything you're doing, be very careful that you need to protect your private data and also your company data. Very key, because any mistake you make can hurt you, can also hurt your company, which I think nobody wants to do. I mean, I'll give you an example with what's happening with WhatsApp and Zoom and the rest, and what hackers are doing every day. So you need to be mindful on the kind of content that you go to, the kind of content that you check, and all those, to be sure that it's not something that's going to expose your even your bank accounts or whatever it is to out there, that people cannot tap into it and hurt you. Is very key. The third thing I want us to take out here will have to do with having that vocal point. Please, your life matters, and you can't be afraid of going or putting something in email or putting it by a chat to raise your voice to say, my life matters. I think I deserve to have something better that I can use than exposing me to out there. No matter whatever it is, I think every one of us, these people you talk about, they are humans. Your employee is a human. Everybody is human. So we understand that human element in that. And only when you voice those things out that somebody will listen to you and now understand how bad it is and be able to make any change. So the changes has to come from you as the staff of the organization. And for the employer of labor, I believe that some of us are here and you would have also listened to some of the things that you need to do to also curtail some of these things, issues that the staffs are talking about. And it's very good that you're hearing it and you can also make amends and changes as it comes to. So I think that's what I want people to take out from here.
Yeah, great thoughts. Great thoughts. I want to also say that Mr. Sanusi Mohammed is getting the scholarship for the Tekedia Mini MBA, and Mr. Patoribo is getting the scholarship to the Mini MBA. So we've got 5 persons getting the scholarship to the Tekedia Mini MBA that will help them learn, that will help them develop design thinking, that will help them understand the business environment better, and deliver better value to companies and society. But at this point, I want to thank you all for attending. I want to thank my panelists, from Mrs. Adanma, Mrs. Taiwo, Mrs. Nireti. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, and to all our viewers out there, we thank you for being a part of this. Let's keep innovating. Let's keep thinking. Let's keep moving on with the times. Let's keep developing ourselves, and let's make Nigeria better. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Nice meeting you, Taiwo. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you offline. Thank you.